but if there is a regime change operation, as you suggested, you need some groups on the ground. I had the impression that the efforts to instigate all these riots and anti-government violence, which died off recently, that this was essentially the opportunity to go after the Iranian government, and once it failed, that the U.S. or Israel would come in bombing during the chaos in a way of supporting an uprising. But given that this fell apart, it didn't just die down. It appears that Iran was able to essentially roll up a lot of these covert networks, which have been built up over years, if not decades. So has the U.S. and Israel lost a lot of its, I guess, ground assets in Iran, which could have been used during a war, or at least as a necessity for a regime change operation?
Again, not being read into the covert plan, I can only speculate here.
Yeah.
What I think happened is that a network of an internal cellular network of agents working for hostile foreign intelligence, primarily Israel, United States, Great Britain, were sacrificed to create the conditions of unrest. If I know the Israelis the way I think I know the Israelis, and the CIA the way I think I know the CIA, they operate, when they do something like this, it's called shaking the tree. I've done it before. You go in and you tickle the system, then you see how the system responds. Um, and they tickled the system. They sacrificed an entire network, and we're talking hundreds of assets to achieve this. But what they didn't do is mobilize the actual paramilitary organizations that would lead the insurrection. I think the goal was to create the unrest, and then there was supposed to be a bombing campaign to suppress those security nodes identified that were activated to suppress. So now, to be honest, the United States knows exactly how Iran responds. They got it all. They collected it all. They're not stupid. They sacrificed these people, but the Iranians had to communicate, had to activate, had to mobilize. They identified units, personality structures that responded. This was their first team, and the team's been identified. And this is a team that's going to be bombed when the strike begins, and they're going to suppress this. And this is when the paramilitary forces come in, the people that are training, that are in northern Iraq, the Kurdish forces there, the Kurdish forces that operate along the border of Iran. This is where Azeri forces that are operated inside Azerbaijan under CIA and Israeli control, the Baluch Liberation Army, all of these paramilitary forces, actual terrorist armies, are going to mobilize and make the move. At the same time, the Mujahideen al-Khalq, which is one of the most resilient, survivable organizations, they will mobilize from within. These people have networks that weren't sacrificed, that are still in play. These are the networks that the Israelis use to assassinate scientists, etc. They're going to be killing everybody they can get a hold of. They're going to be running around putting plastic, explosives on cars, rooms. This is going to be the full scale go after everybody and kill everybody. Not necessarily the senior leadership, which should have been evacuated, but all of these security nodes that were identified when they shook the tree. They're going to die, or at least they're going to try and die. And the idea is to create massive confusion, airstrikes, on the ground activity, paramilitary moving in, a resumption of the uprising, because now there won't be security forces to lower it down. And this will cause Iran to fracture and break apart. Whether Iran is actually split up, and you'd have to have the Pakistani government willing to absorb parts, and I don't see the Pakistani government doing that because it's issues. But I think you're going to see Iran be fractured into autonomous regions of chaos and anarchy. that it'll be uncontrolled by the center. And from the Israeli perspective, this is a success. The Israelis don't care about the Iranian people. The Americans don't care about the Iranian people. All we care about is getting rid of the Ayatollah regime, and that's what we're going to be trying to do. Again, I say this. Um, Understand that what I just laid out, which I believe is actually what's going to happen, um, the Iranians know this. They've been preparing for it. So it's not as though the Iranians are going, oh, you mean the MEK is going to come out of the woodworks? Uh, oh, you mean the Baluch Liberation Army? The Iranians are ready for this. Now, how ready you are, I mean, it's like saying I'm ready for Mike Tyson to punch me in the face. Um, can you really be prepared for Mike Tyson to punch you in the face? You know, if he knocks you out, you're knocked out. Um, but at least you know the punch is coming and you can, prepare for it. We'll see what happens. I think this is a horrible government. There's no reason for the United States and Israel to be pushing for the elimination of the Iranian government at this time, except that Benjamin Netanyahu desperately needs this for his political survival. So once again, the United States is willing to sacrifice everything, our national security, our national legitimacy, everything on behalf of Israel.
Well, if you're advising the Iranian government, or if you're just in Tehran, how would you assess their likely response? Because in the first attack on Iran, I would have thought that the main objective of Iran would have been to essentially show the strength it has, the resilience, the ability to strike back, essentially to build up its deterrent, to make sure that the aggressive forces were pushed back and that they would be deterred from doing this again. But what you're describing, though, this is an existential threat. That is, the goal is, yeah, not some limited strike. It's to destroy essentially Iran. And if they fail, they would perhaps go back, regroup, and try again. So, given that this is how Iran likely sees the threat against it, it would have a incentive to react differently this time, I would think. That is, to not hold back in terms of striking various Western military assets, Israel in the region, or even, some have suggested Iran might even do a preemptive strike if all the American warships and fighter planes, bombers, all are in position, and it looks like they're going for the go. Then it would be better for Iran to hit them first. Again, I'm not. This is speculations. One seen this in the media. No one in Tehran is whispering my ear either. So I'm just wondering how do you assess the likely way of the Iranians who would behave differently this time as opposed to the first time they were attacked?
Well, the first time they were attacked, remember, they weren't expecting that attack. It took them by surprise. So right off the bat, if Iran is taken by surprise, then shame on them. I mean, that's their own issues. I mean, if I were the decision maker in Iran, the Abraham Lincoln would already be sunk, American bases would already be destroyed, Israel would be eliminated, and I'd be carrying out massive operations against the Kurds in Iraq, the Baluch, I'd be wiping out Avaz, I'd be killing anybody suspected of the of MEK ties. I'd be sending assassination teams around the world to kill the Shah's son. I would kill everybody. Um, but that's just me. Uh, I'm not Iranian. I'm just a bloodthirsty son of a bitch who doesn't believe in standing by and getting hit in the face first. The Iranians, unfortunately for them, are very civilized. They're very proper. And I believe that their government still holds out hope that war can be avoided. And so they're not going to take, I believe, um, the actions that would be necessary to preempt this. Iran has every right to. I mean, the statements made by the United States and Israel already justify this. There's no doubt that there's an imminent threat that's building up. Iran should go to the United Nations and declare, an emergency and demand international intervention, and declare that there's an imminent threat. And if that imminent threat can't be eliminated in a period of time, Iran has no choice but to, carry out preemptive self-defense under Article 51 of the United Nations Charter. They'd have every legitimate right to do this. But I also think they're being advised by the Russians and the Chinese to be patient too. That, again, we know of at least two occasions when Donald Trump pulled back from the brink. And so maybe there's people advising the Iranians that this can be the third time, that there's no reason or justification to go forward because a preemptive strike again if you're going to strike the king, kill the king. So the preemptive strike has to be a knockout blow to the United States and to Israel. And one of the things that happens if you carry out a very effective preemptive strike is that you open yourself up to nuclear retaliation, and that would be again the end of Iran. um, which is why hopefully if I were advising the Iranians, you'd have some rational people say, that's okay, Scott. Go sit in the back corner and eat your raw meat. We'll get back to you later. Um, you know, but no, I think Iran. I have hope and I have confidence that the Iranians understand what's happening, and that they are preparing um, to ride out what's going to be one hell of a storm. I also need to say this. I'm an American. I don't wish harm on any Americans. I don't want any American hurt in this. And, you know, you know, this is going to just be a bad thing, a very bad thing because it's a war of choice. Um, and I just hope and pray that the leaders of the American men and women who are in harm's way do their jobs right and bring as many of their boys and girls home as possible.